Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. This meeting is being broadcast by Westford Cable Access TV and being recorded for playback online. By participating in this meeting, you consent to having your likeness and audio included in that recording. The first item on the agenda at 7 p.m. is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Sierra, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Do any members of the audience have something for open forum? In that case, we'll move on to our next 7 p.m. agenda item, which is a request to modify approved plan for the Town of Westford Department of Public Works 90 Carlisle Road project. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioners, for having me here tonight. My name is Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for Westford. And I come here tonight with a request as we start to prep for the beginning of the Jack Walsh Court reconstruction project. I was reviewing the project at the pre-con with our engineer and the contractor, and a thought occurred to us that it might be better to make one small change in the construction procedure. During the plan approval, the project was designed with a construction entrance south of the playground. Yeah, if you can show that sheet. You can see the kind of crosshatch area at the bottom left of the diagram.
Would you like to have
Laser pointer?
laser pointer?
Sure.
Okay. So it's the
Yellow button.
orange button.
Orange button?
Just
Okay.
don't look at it.
Thanks. So this is the proposed stabilized construction entrance. And the idea of it is to allow vehicles to safely enter the project site, which is here. We're reconstructing these two tennis courts and this basketball court into a new basketball court, a new tennis court, and 4 pickleball courts down here. As part of constructing the stabilized construction entrance, 2 things need to occur. First, we need to cut down 4 trees, which they're currently mature trees. They provide shade, being on the southern exposure of the playground, which is right here. They do provide shade to the playground. And so we would have to cut those down. In addition, there's a drainage ditch. There's an outfall right here. There's a drainage ditch that runs this whole length. We'd be filling in, a section of that drainage ditch and have to reset it afterwards. What we're proposing, if you go back to the previous sheet, please. Actually, the next one, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the one. So what we're proposing, this area here is a pervious paved sidewalk for accessibility for patrons to the park. So this area needs to be disturbed as part of the project already. And what we're proposing is to have the contractor enter there for a variety of reasons. One, if you've driven the area, as you're coming up north on Carlisle Road, there's kind of a curve south of here, and it's sort of downhill. So traffic's moving pretty quick. It'll be kind of an abrupt turn for the trucks to get in, the construction vehicles. Whereas if they came through the parking lot, there's much better sight distance and much better accessibility. The second reason, it would eliminate a fair amount of disturbance, nearly 4,000 square feet of disturbance for the construction entrance would not have to be disturbed. I know that the primary concern for the area for you folks is this wetland right here. And certainly that's understandable. Given the rainfall conditions or lack of rainfall conditions we've had, it's really dry right now, which is good news. And there's a chain link fence surrounding the wetland currently. We will not be touching that chain link fence for any of the project. And in fact, that's going to serve as kind of the guide for the erosion control measures, which are going to start to be installed tomorrow. So what we're proposing is to take out a section of the chain link fence for the playground and having, using that widened area as a construction entrance for the project. These 4 trees here that you see were a request, I think, by the commission as a result of these trees being cut down. We will still plant these trees even if you grant this change.
Ask.
Yep. So yeah, we would still commit to doing that as part of the project as well. So that's the request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have questions?
So this is temporary, you're driving over dry ground that hopefully there's minimal disturbance, if any. Doesn't look like anything's being cut
Was disrupted.
or disrupted
But the
or
only-
permanently altered here.
The only thing that's being permanently altered is where the sidewalk will go. Right now is grassed.
Yeah.
But the grass has got to come up for the sidewalk anyway,
Anyway.
so, yeah.
So it's previously disturbed there.
Yeah, and
With the trees.
with the, with the chain link fence and the erosion control, there should be adequate protections, so that, and you're gonna make it wide enough so that regardless of the size of the vehicle, they can maneuver through there.
Correct, yeah, and this area in the playground, those of you who have been there know that it's a bark mulch kind of surface now. So they'll set aside the bark mulch to make a good access for themselves, and then that'll all be restored afterwards, new fence put in. And in fact, the
Monument
project...
gets moved and monument goes right back to the same
Correct,
spot.
yeah, and the plans call for that regardless. And the plans also call for a new gate to be put in here as part of the project.
You have a place where you put the 4 trees?
We'll put them right where they're scheduled to go.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
right where the existing benches
Understood,
are.
okay.
Well,
Could we possibly get those trees to be native species?
Sure, I can certainly ask.
Thank you.
We'll have to make sure they're appropriate size.
Right, yeah.
If the commission has any recommendations, I'd be happy to.
Matt actually has a list.
It came from National Grid.
yeah, there's a
Matt-
30 under 30 that Eversource is, actually it's
Is
Eversource.
that Eversource? Okay, Eversource. All right.
Yeah, and we can send you that, but Eversource recently came out with a list of native plantings, all of which are trees, shrubs that will not grow more than 30 feet tall.
Oh, that's terrific.
So, yeah.
Be great.
So, yeah, we can get that to you.
Yeah, for sure, we can do that.
Okay.
Jim, did you have a,
Nope, that was that.
okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I'm fine.
Can I have a motion to approve, oh, actually, did you have any questions?
No, it's not.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the request to modify the approved plan as described by the DPW
So moved.
director?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
You too. Moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item. It's a request for work after December 1st by Newport Construction on the Boston Road right-of-way project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you guys. We're the general contractor working for Mass DOT in town, starting the Boston Road project. And part of the project is a large detention basin that is,
Can you identify
oh,
yourself
I'm
in the
sorry,
minutes?
Rod Cummings.
Thank you.
I'm the project manager, and this is Tim
Tim
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain, project
Okay.
superintendent.
So what we're requesting is permission to start the detention basin and associated drainage during the winter months, which would involve sedimentation control, barrier, tree removal, clearing, grubbing, and then the digging and forming of the detention basin during the winter months. And this would help get us a jump on the overall project for the Mass DOT and for the town.
How long of a time do you need to do this project? You know, we typically don't give it all the way from December 1st to April 1st. We usually try to pick a time frame, so trying to figure out how much time you need this project,
I think
get
we
it
could-
done, and when you want to start it.
I think we could squeeze it in 2 months.
Okay. So if we gave like a date of December 1st through February 15th, if weather doesn't cooperate, we can always extend it.
Right,
Yeah.
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 I mean, that, as you can tell, that's a rather
size.
large detention basin, so
Yeah.
it will take some time, and if there's adverse weather, you know, we'll have to deal with that
Yeah.
as well. But this would certainly allow us to get a jump on the overall project, which would help expedite us.
So if you're digging out the basin, if the weather does not cooperate, do you have a risk of erosion down into the basin so that you'd have to actually reconstruct it again? Or basically undo what, the erosion that's gone into the basin?
Yes, I mean, that won't be completed in, you know, maybe in the 2 months window. But those slopes, as we construct them, should be stable enough to withstand any kind of weather.
Heavy rain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also stone that goes down in the bottom for when the water gets tied into the drainage system. It wouldn't just wash in there, it would go over the stone, so that would help.
Okay.
But there's quite a bit of work associated with that
Yeah.
one basin. It's roughly 400 feet off the main road, so we have to cut our way in and then establish, you know, the sedimentation control barrier. And we have to do a walkthrough with you guys and with the Mass DOT before we do anything anyway, so
Okay.
all that would be flagged and tagged and, you know, approved before we start anything.
Any other questions?
Pretty flat topography out there, correct?
Yes.
Not when you're done, though.
Now, yeah,
No, it's for an improvement, though. It's a
like
good
15,
thing.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing.
yeah.
It's a nice place for me to hide out for a couple of months off the road, you
It's
know?
like 15 feet deep, right?
What's that?
It's like something like.
Yeah, almost.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, from the top of the embankment back down to the basin's probably like 12 feet, and then it slopes back the other way, another 5 feet, so.
Can I have a motion to approve the request to work after December 1st until February 15th, 2025?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And then if, you know, if you're getting our first, whatever our first February meeting is, if you're finding that you're not quite done yet, you can just come back and we can.
Okay, thank you.
Ask for more time and we'll
Yes.
reconsider.
Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next 7:05 PM agenda item, it's continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for 90 Main Street.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening, Maureen Harold, Norse Environmental Services. Here with me this evening is Natalie Holland, the homeowner for the property. So at the last Conservation Commission meeting, the commission approved alternative number 1. We revised the plan to reflect that alternative. So the garage is proposed in an area of lawn to the east side of the dwelling, 30.5 feet from the resource area. The mudroom was relocated to the rear of the garage. That is now proposed 33.9 feet from the resource area. We're proposing to extend the driveway by 160 square feet to the new garage. We're providing infiltration in the form of a 1 foot wide, 1 foot deep drip line trench along the proposed garage. A trench is also shown in front of the garage that will tie into the infiltration trench. The existing septic system is shown on the plan. The tree line is shown on the plan. We're not proposing to remove any trees for the project. The area between the proposed addition and the stone wall, we're proposing to maintain that as lawn as it is right now. And we corrected the table of dimensions that was noted for the front yard setback to be 96.4 feet. And I believe that addresses all the commission's concerns, and I can open it up with any questions.
Sounds right. Sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we asked for.
Tiara, did you have any comments or questions on this?
I do not.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay. Have people had a chance to review the order of conditions?
Yep.
Any comments or changes? Okay. Can I?
How about the applicant? Do you have
Yes,
any
that's
comments or
true.
changes
Have you?
to the orders?
Yes, I reviewed it, fairly standard for the commission, so no questions or
Okay,
concerns.
great.
Okay. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. You're all set.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Yes. Here, if you want to pass me the,
Oh, yes.
so we're not waiting till the end of the night
Sorry,
to sign
long
them up? Okay. So moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item. It's a public hearing and issue order of resource area delineation for G&M Westford LLC, 478 Groton Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation application of G&M Westford LLC for determination of wetland resource areas located at 478 Groton Road.
Good evening, Matt Waterman, for the record with Land Tech Consultants, here representing G&M Westford Realty LLC. We submitted the certified mail receipts electronically before the meeting. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this parcel of land. It's on Route 40 near Russell's Way, Carl Thompson. It's on the north side of Groton Road, just to the right of Di Donato Drive, the new residential subdivision on Route 40. This is also under construction with two industrial buildings being built in the front left corner of the site. On this plan, you can see Russell's Way, which is Greystone development on the right-hand side or on the east side of the plan, kind of going up and to the north. And our property is the rectangular piece in the middle. And you can see the limited clearing is that kind of jaggedy line that kind of cuts through the middle of the property. The buildings are out front, and the wetlands are way out back. They are associated with the vernal pool that I think was originally done when Greystone Estates was being constructed. Our wetlands actually were kind of derived from the Greystone project. They match the wetlands that were kind of recently flagged for Di Donato Drive. We did have Norse Environmental go out and update the flags. I walked in with Matt Salem. They were off by a couple feet from the original delineation. So we just conservatively put them back to the original delineation. So they shifted to the south or closer to Route 40. And that was just to capture one or two little areas that were kind of borderline, but Matt felt more comfortable if we included them. They were part of the original delineation, so there was no real issues updating them to what they originally were. I did go out there today. Our survey went and rehung those flags. I walked it. They removed the new older flags, and it does represent the one or two areas that Matt was concerned about, and we did capture those areas, and it blends into the delineation of Di Donato Drive. We did submit Mass DEP field data sheets. Otherwise, I think it's relatively straightforward. It's just bordering vegetated wetland. We did not delineate the vernal pool or any future projects. The goal is to stay out of the 100-foot buffer, but we're still working on that plan.
Any questions from members of the commission?
Your entrance is down near the entrance to Russell's Way off of 40? Is that the only location to drive in?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Nothing's
the
planned
only frontage for this parcel is off of Groton Road. There's no access off of Russell's Way.
Part up there, there's private property in between, and there's no intent to...
Correct.
Okay, good.
There is a trail there that kind of runs through there. It's one of the Greystone trails. I don't remember flagging that one with Bill Turner, but there is a trail there that's marked. It needs some work, but it does kind of cut along the edge of the wetlands.
Did you have any comments or questions?
No, just like he said, Matt Salem went out too, so sounds like everything is up to date on the plan, and he's good with it.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? If you, sir, come up to the mic, let us know who you are and what your question is.
Hi, my name is Mark O'Brien, and I live at 477 Groton Road. So I'm kind of across the street, I think, in that picture.
And then the laser pointer.
Sure.
Orange button.
Orange button in the middle.
And you could
I
just,
know where you are.
you'll just,
Colorblind guy, which one is yours?
This one right here. I appreciate that.
yeah, so you can just point it, yeah, so you can kind of indicate on the screen where you want
are
to.
in relation to the plan.
Yep,
Well, when I see Russell's Way, I think Groton Road's way is just down the bottom.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the big rectangular thing is 478 Groton Road, isn't
Yep.
it? Okay, so if you, I am probably, but in the lower left, I'm 477, so if that left line that goes down, you know, of the rectangle, that's probably my property right across the street from that.
Yep,
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
Down here?
yeah,
Southwest.
Oh, thanks, that's better. There's the road.
yeah.
So I can't tell whether I'm getting a line or not with this. Is this what the?
It is. I think you're down right
Little
there. I think we're in
red
the
dot that's
lower
bouncing
corner.
around.
But anyway, and so that's where the lower left of this image is
Yes.
on the other side of the street. Looking at
What's he saying?
stuff being done. And I really don't have anything good or bad to say. I'm more curious as, I mean, don't have town water, I have, regular water from my well. So what's the situation that's going on? I assumed it was somebody Russell's Way is, I mean, that seems like the most possible give and take going on here.
Yeah, and tonight we're here just for an application, just to kind of confirm the wetlands. It's not any new projects. You would get notified again if we, when.
Thank you for that.
If and when we start going forward with phase two, through the planning board, most likely. Our goal is to stay out of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. Our attorney has advised us of that, and she feels that that is the best approach, and we agree. So from a conservation standpoint, I don't think we would have any further applications. We're not anticipating. But through the planning board site plan approval, you would get notified for that process. But tonight, we're just here to delineate the wetlands on the site. And that's it. No
So
development.
essentially, there's wetlands, and you don't.
Yeah, they're actually off the site, so they're north of the site, but because we have jurisdiction over 100, we have jurisdiction within 100 feet of the wetlands. Some of our jurisdiction, some of the land at the very top of the site is under our jurisdiction, so we would be able to review and potentially condition work up in that buffer zone area.
Doesn't mean it'll happen.
But the wetlands are up north of this area here, and the 100-foot buffer that she was talking about is right here.
And is there a concern that the buildings that are being done or almost done might somehow affect the water?
No, I think what they're thinking is, if they're showing us an ANRAD, it's an abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation, which means that up on this parcel, I think they're going to be doing some additional development. Because the very first thing you do when you come in and you want to see if you can develop an area, and it's within, some of it's within our jurisdiction, is to do an abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation. So yes, there are 2 buildings right there, right now. I suspect they're planning more.
Well, they had, I don't know that date, but previously, when this first was requested, they wanted to build another home there.
I don't know. It seems like they're planning on something.
Well, so they were trying to do something else before, and
I don't know if it's that or something else.
It never got to the point where there was not a concrete plan that they asked us to review. So it was all still very conceptual. They were looking at what all their options are. So,
I just assumed that you
yeah.
guys kind of said no to it.
No, we didn't.
We might
because
never have had one.
If there was a plan that would come to us for review, you would have received a notification like you did for this hearing, so you would have had the opportunity to be present when that plan was reviewed and listen to the questions back and forth. So,
And there was a meeting, and I did go, and it did have
okay,
more buildings than the two.
But they
that
could
are there.
find out that they can't do certain things.
Well, that's what I thought.
So if that
Yeah.
happens, you're not gonna,
Yeah.
it's not
So
something.
I just figured.
Matt, are you before the plan or another board besides us with something that's going on that we haven't seen yet?
No, but we have had a lot of different conceptual plans. Some have gone to the Board of Appeals as discussion items. The property owner wanted to put a house back there and own the shop out front. There was working with the town on an athletic building. There's been a variety of things.
Okay.
None of which have come to fruition.
None have come to fruition with
The
the
first step
exception
in the
of.
process of whatever might occur out there.
Correct.
Right.
So in other words, it's the beginning of possibly asking for more.
Well, they're looking for
Yes,
something.
yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Is that,
But you will always be notified, okay?
Yes,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, of course, thank you.
okay. Any other questions from members of the audience? Yeah, if you come up to the mic, let us know who you are and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Lakshman Gargipati. I'm on 11 Russell's Way.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, I don't understand the whole thing that's happening here. So there are wetlands behind the two new buildings that are constructed, and that's what.
Go ahead and do it again.
I'm sorry, really
No,
sorry.
no, this is good. This is why we're here. We're here for you.
Up here in this area.
And where is the Russell's Way right now for that?
Russell's Way, will you point out where Russell's Way is?
Oh, and this is Russell's Way off of Route 40, heading north into the development.
And you are?
I'm at 11, as soon as you enter the Russell's Way,
At the beginning?
at the beginning.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's away from you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he's in a butter.
well, he's on the other side of,
Yes.
but he's on the other side of Russ. You're on the left side as you're driving in Russell's Way?
Right, that's
I mean,
right.
you're on the right side as you're
I'm on the
driving?
right side, yeah.
Yes, okay.
So he's not even shown on the plan.
Probably one
Okay.
of the common drives over here, if I had to
Correct,
guess.
that's right.
Okay.
That's right, because recently, right, just behind my house, right, they're having a dog care, I guess, daycare, and, the noise pollution and all that, So this,
Off of Oak Hill Road, I believe, right?
on the, yes, Oak Hill Road, that's right, which is exactly opposite my, my house. So this, they're going to construct more homes, like, there are a lot of
They're
half a
asking.
dozen
They're,
homes.
they're not telling us what
what?
they're going to do. They just have to say, okay, we have this line right here,
Right,
and we're showing you an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. We have the wetlands here, we have some flagging. We just want to confirm that you're in agreement with our flagging and,
right.
Matt, is there any more that I need to add to that?
No, and
No?
I mean, there is no residential in the zoning bylaw allowed in the industrial district. This property is zoned industrial, so most likely it would be an industrial use.
So it'd be some type of a business?
Similar to what's being built today.
Okay.
And bringing down many more trees, or they're already?
Any trees.
Maybe-
But any trees that come down, we ask for trees to be.
Well, but only if it's in the buffer zone.
Yeah.
But Marilyn,
Maryland, yeah.
only trees in the buffer zone. If they take out between
Trees
this-
that are outside of our jurisdiction,
Okay,
those
right,
trees
if
are
we have no
going because
control.
they're outside of our
Anything we have
jurisdiction.
control of. You're right.
But yes, so, but with anything they propose in the future, there will be public hearings for a number of boards, and you will be notified as an abutter, so you'll have a chance to come and ask your questions.
Of course, but by the time the plan is already made, I'll
Well-
just be a semicolon or a comma,
I wouldn't say that.
Doesn't work like that.
No, you,
Enough.
yeah, is you can,
Cool,
Please.
thank you. Yeah,
Thank you,
that's what I
Robert.
wanted to find out, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're
Okay,
worried,
cool.
you could always
It's in good
contact-
hands, thank you, yeah.
If you were worried, you could always contact our office to make sure you're understanding, why you haven't heard, or if you should be
enough.
worried or anything like that.
Fair enough, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
okay. Are there any more questions from the audience? Okay, so, can I have a motion to issue the order of resource area or to approve? What's the
Yep.
technical word?
Issues in order, so.
An order of resource
Issue-
area delineation.
Okay, can I have a motion to issue an order of resource area delineation?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, Matt?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. You. Moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item. It's a continued public hearing for Zom Living LLC, 37 Powers Road.
So I have not heard back from them. Last I heard, they're waiting on the peer review report so that they can respond to it, and that report just hasn't happened yet, so I don't have anything updated or any materials.
You want to just continue them till our next meeting?
But they haven't expressed an interest in being, because we've only got one November meeting, they haven't expressed any interest, they haven't given you any indication whether the first meeting in November or the first meeting in December, correct?
No, they haven't. They didn't even submit a request to
Okay.
continue for this one, so I'm not sure.
So can I have a motion to continue till the November 13th meeting?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let me finish writing my name. So moving on to our other 7:20 PM agenda item, we have a discussion of proposed landscaping and animal exercise area at Abbott Mill.
Hi everyone, my name is Hildy Karpowicz. I work at High Point Engineering. We're in Dedham, Mass. We're a civil site engineering company. Right now we are working for Acre Companies, which is the owner of Abbott Mill, and we have also been working with Copley Wolf, who is our landscape architect team. So today we want to discuss what permitting might be needed for the limited work that we're doing. The work that we want to do this year is landscaping, but if anybody's familiar with the property, it's an old mill building. It used to be some sort of yarn mill until the 50s, and they used Stony Brook to power their mill equipment. So most of the Stony Brook is now culverted underneath the property, but part of it is daylighted. So on the property associated with Stony Brook, there's riverfront, bank, bordering vegetated wetlands, land underwater, and bordering land subject to flooding, along with the buffer zones. So there's only a couple areas that we want to talk about today. There are two areas that we are not working on at this time.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what's happening right now.
Yeah,
There's a lot of dots going on. Comments are popping up. I have no idea what's going on right now.
Okay, I did bring my boards in case of any technical difficulties, because...
Try reopening the packet. Gosh, I don't know what all those dots are on the plans.
Oh, the internet. Oh, okay.
Oh, now the dots are gone. Oh.
I threatened to bring out the dinosaur tech and it starts working. So the first area is in the top left.
If you want to use the orange button.
Okay. So the first area here is at the top left. This is close. So this property, if anybody doesn't know it, this is the, how do I put it, a main entrance on Pleasant Street that has the big tower on Abbott Mill.
Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Well, if the next page works, that one's a little more important.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And this won't go away. I don't, gosh, everything's freezing. I'm sorry.
Okay. I might be able to work with this. So this is the fire pit area. Right now, there's just some above ground equipment that was associated with the mill. It looks like an above ground gas regulator. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's just decommissioned equipment. And some walls that were associated with the, I think it was the train station. So in this area, the only thing they want to do is add a propane fire pit. They didn't want to add any cabling or wiring because it's a nice flagstone area. So they're trying to maintain the characteristics of the mill as much as possible. And then just adding some planters. They're going to be above ground planters because, again, they don't want to disturb everything underground. They don't want to rip up the flagstone. So I believe the planters are a couple feet high and they're just going to toss a couple trees in the corner. So that's the first area that we're talking about. The second area, actually, do you mind going to the previous plan? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the second area is this box up here. This is plantings only. All we want to do is add plants in the landscape. They're existing landscaped islands. It's a parking area back here, and when we were looking at the planning board decision, which we just got today, we're supposed to have plantings there anyway, because this is kind of an unsightly industrial building back here. So they're hoping to just enhance it by adding some trees and plants. That's just really a bare area today. Is the one with the photographs open?
It should be. Actually, well, let me try one thing since this is being a little bit funky. Let me just try to open it from our files instead of.
I think I have it on the flash drive too.
Okay.
If that helps.
Just hoping that maybe this version won't be adding those dots and whatever it's doing. Okay, so I know you're on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that one's not doing the fun circle. All right, so we'll use this version. And I'm sorry, which you needed the photographs?
Yeah, I think the photographs was a separate. Yeah. So this gives you a better idea of what the fire pit area is. This is the above ground equipment that I was talking about. So they just want to add some planter boxes in the corner here and a fire pit that's it has an internal propane system. This is the area that they simply want to add plantings to. There really isn't anything else to it. It's just the grass strip here. They want to add a bit of a buffer. And this is the abutting property, and you can see that it's not exactly maintained perfectly. So that's why they just want to screen it to help block the view and help the residents out a little bit. And then the dog park area, sorry, do you mind scrolling back up? Oh yeah, I guess I can start with this. This is the existing, this is what they use already as a dog walking area. They wanted to formalize it a little bit more. As you can see, they already have the pet waste disposal, but this is where, and when I've been on site walks, this is where people are taking their dogs. It's just one of the more open spaces off to the side. And along here is a Stony Brook. The open culvert is a little bit off the page. Unfortunately, I didn't grab a better photograph, but the culvert opens up right here from where it goes underneath the buildings. Do you mind going back up?
Which one?
Actually, this will work.
Do they want to fence it, or do they want to leave it the way it is?
They want to fence it in. So our original plan, this has to change per planning regardless. This was going to be a concrete pathway. So in 2005, it was converted officially to apartment buildings. And in 2015, this area was completely paved. They removed all the pavement. And per planning, we are not allowed to add impervious area here anyway. So instead of making this concrete, this is planning on being stone dust. So there's no addition of impervious area with this. With a typical dog exercise area, they have somewhat of a lock-in gate. So, you know, if somebody's coming in, other dogs don't run out. And the surface treatment is just planned to be a fine pea stone. And it's mostly just planting in this area. To protect the brook a bit, we do plan to add a 6-inch berm, maybe with some tall grasses, so that way if there's any dog waste, it'll be trapped in the berm right outside the fence instead of discharging into the brook. And during construction, we will have an erosion control line. The plan right now is a straw wattle, although if the commission prefers something else, we're open to it. I just always default to straw wattle. So that would be along the top of the edge. So, as for the resource areas, let me pull up my notes here. So there are a few different resource areas that I want to talk about. The first one is the town regulations for the buffer. And that one, this is almost all planting, minus adding the tiny above ground fire pit, which is also just another landscaping feature, and in a completely impervious area. It's all flagstone, as you can see, so we're not adding impervious area as part of this project. We had met with Matt Salem and members of planning to discuss the project before, and Matt mentioned that for the town of Westford regulations, and I'm just going to quote this, the commission will not require review or permitting of the following unless or until the commission and its staff determine that there may be an impact to wetlands, water-related resources, and or adjoining land areas. And it's routine gardening or landscaping within an existing garden or landscape area accessory to an existing family residential structure housing development, or business. So in our opinion, this is really gardening. We are adding a fence, but we are just adding landscaping in most of the property, just to make a property that's honestly really cool, have better landscaping features for the residents. For the bordering lands subject to flooding, this one's a little bit more complicated. So Stony Brook, the flood elevation changes throughout the property. It's highest along Pleasant Street, but then I believe the culvert kind of dips downward. So when we get to the dog exercise area, it's significantly lower. So up at the fire pit area, that's out of the mapped flood zone, and it's a few feet above the highest mapped elevation in the flood zone. So the highest mapped flood elevation is 198.5, and that's right along the perimeter of Pleasant Street, and then the fire pit is at minimum 201.4. So that's out of the mapped, and it's above the floodplain. With the rear parking area, I think it looks like parts of it are in the floodplain, but that is plantings only. There is nothing else in that area. We are not changing the elevations. We are just adding trees, which really should only be beneficial for everything associated with Stony Brook. And then the dog exercise area, that's also, it's in the mapped flood, the mapped boarding lane subject to flooding, but it's all above it. So you can see the line with the elevation goes right through the middle of the dog park, and that line is mapped at 191, and the lowest elevation in that area, and we're not changing the elevations except for adding that 6-inch berm to collect any, waste overflow. The minimum elevation in that area is 191.4, so we are already above it. We are not filling the flood zone in any way. We are just working above it in that case.
What's the population of the building, do you know?
I have absolutely no idea. Sorry, ownership couldn't come tonight.
Do you know how many dogs use it? Any sense?
I don't know, but there were a lot. It's definitely a very dog-friendly area, so that's why they want to have a place that they can easily clean up and maintain versus them running
They pick it
around.
up themselves and remove it, correct?
What?
They pick up and remove dog refuse.
Yeah, they do. I actually didn't see any dog waste around, and they did have the collection baskets around, but they're still trying to get an area where they can easily maintain it, keep everything, and let the dogs run, because just for
I'm fine with that if we can ensure that, the waste is picked up and removed,
Well,
being so close to the brook.
can we bring up so one question, with all these areas where you're doing plantings, are they all native trees? Are they all native planting species?
I wish I knew that off the top of my head. If that's something we need, we can do that.
That's something we would want.
It'd require.
I'm not sure which.
Yeah, this second, the dog park concept. In terms of, so the area is fenced in for the dog park. Will people be able to have access so that they can walk their dogs around the outside of that?
I mean, it's an open area otherwise, so that people will be walking their dogs really wherever they want around the property. They're just hoping to contain it to this area as much as possible.
I'm just thinking is if there are dogs that are loose in there and other people do not want to walk their dog in there with dogs loose, they may choose to go around the outside of the perimeter. So that's where we would,
Being so close, we prefer not to see them that close to the resource.
Well, that's one of, is some of it is the plantings along the outside. Would that make it more difficult for people to walk on the outside? Is if there's
enhancing a buffer that makes it less user-friendly?
Well, no, I'm just thinking out loud with questions at this point. Is do we have to worry about picking up after dogs outside the park as well, if people choose not to go in because there are loose dogs?
Well, if that's the case, it's also the case today, because right now the dogs are just walking around completely uncontrolled, and we don't have the fenced-in area, and we don't have the berm today, and it is an existing dog area. We're just trying to.
So are you saying that people let their dogs loose there today?
I don't know if they're let loose. I don't believe so.
That's just is.
I'm not sure. All the dogs I saw were on leashes, but
Yeah, but thinking what I'm doing is I'm thinking through how the use is going to change, and does behavior change as well if you're now introducing loose dogs? Thinking about, the implications of if people decide to go outside the park rather than into the park.
Well, we don't know right now if they're letting them run loose or having
Right.
them on a leash. I mean, they're supposed to because we have a leash law, but.
But it's on private property, so technically they wouldn't have to. I just, if you're focused on cleaning up inside, this is thinking about, somebody may also need to pay attention to cleaning up on the outside. Yes, Marilyn?
Just thinking that a sign on the outside
Yeah.
might not be a bad thing, that alerts people, that you don't want to have that contamination, so.
Well, also,
Too much trust in signs.
but
Well,
no,
it's a small area.
I know.
But you're trying to do the best in that small area, so.
what I'm also thinking is, you had talked about a berm to keep dog waste from going into the brook. Do we want vegetation on top of the berm so that so that animals are not going there to do their business?
So what we were thinking, I'm sorry, I'm not a landscape architect.
Okay.
When we were looking at the detail, which we haven't formalized yet, we were thinking of a tall native grass that will provide a little bit more erosion control in that area, but it wouldn't be mowed lawn. It would be a more tall ornamental grass on top of the 6-inch berm. That's what we did at a different dog area in Franklin, and it seemed to work pretty well.
Okay, so that there would be heavy vegetation that might keep the dogs out of there. Okay. I'm just,
Signs. You need a sign.
no, they do, well, we have 3 signs over at Freedom Park, and I know how well those work. Any other members of the commission? Any members of the commission have other questions? Nasir, we had reached out to the circuit rider as well, correct?
Yes. And it seemed as though she thought that the best thing to do would be to have a discussion and have the commission determine whether they felt this needed any sort of formal review.
So I do want to point out, they are new. Acre Companies is a fairly new owner of the property. They are trying to do all of this planting, especially, and I think they might have some of the plants this fall. And as we know, it's getting cold. Their time is really running out to get the plants in the ground. So they are planning on deferring the work that we didn't talk about. They have other work going on in the central courtyard area, but they are desperate to get the plantings in this fall if possible.
Including constructing the dog park?
That was the plan. That was their plan to do it. They were hoping to start already, to be honest.
So what do people feel about, do we think this requires a formal review process?
So what do you want to do, like a conditional negative with some sort
Well,
of?
there is no filing at this point, so it's like we've had with 70 Boston Road. Did they need to file or not? This is a discussion that says, some of this stuff, it's up to the commission to determine whether it meets the exemption, actually, I think it's under the local bylaw that it's up to the commission to determine whether something requires a filing for review.
This is grassed right now, right?
Yes.
All the plantings and all that, I don't have any concern at all with any of them. The only thing is the fence, and it's probably better to have the fence and encourage the dogs to go in one area than not. So it's probably an improvement.
Okay.
I want to mention too, fences are, from a technical standpoint, just from the state regulations, they are not under the jurisdiction for state, if that helps anybody's mindset out. And historic mills are also not under riverfront by the state.
Yeah, but some of this is also us understanding the nuances of when our local wetlands bylaw applies and may be slightly different in certain aspects than the state regulations.
Yep.
So, can I have a,
Plantings and fence.
so can I have a motion then to, that
Support the proposed agriculture, support the proposed plantings and fencing?
The
To minimize.
The project details as described by the applicant for the fire pit, the dog park, and tree planting along the parking area.
I would say with the intention of minimizing or removing.
They're not asking for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but the work is, as described, does not require a formal filing for approval, for review and approval? Okay, well, no, can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Second.
Couldn't understand what
Okay.
the eventual motion was.
Okay, so the motion is to not require a filing for review and, a formal filing for review and approval of the fire pit the fire pit installation, the creation of the dog park with plantings, and the plantings along in the grass strip on the edge of the parking area, as
Okay.
described by the
I'll
applicant.
second it then.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You had a question? Sure.
Who's paying for all of this?
The owner, Acre Companies.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, not the town.
Oh, no, definitely not the town. This is all privately owned.
Okay. So, we're all set?
Yeah.
There is a standing committee that was interested in establishing a dog park of some sort in town. They haven't been active recently, but I believe they're still around.
I heard about it.
Okay.
Oh, that was battled hard in Chelmsford. I remember that.
The one in Chelmsford's working.
It is. Yeah, it's very active whenever I've been there. So.
Westford just had a hard time finding a location that they would use. The committee rejected several that were offered, and they want others that aren't offered. So, who knows?
It's a long process.
It's been a long time.
So, moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, it's continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Westford Gateway LLC, an unnumbered Boston Road parcel.
Hi, good evening. Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental Services here on behalf of the applicant. So at the last Conservation Commission meeting, the commission requested a few minor revisions to the site plan. One was to add the concrete blocks along the southerly property line. That has been added to the plan. Paddock number 4, the commission requested some clarification. We added that symbol to the legend to hopefully clear that up. In addition, we also added the mode access way that we're proposing between and around the paddocks. And we labeled the existing retaining walls on the plan as well. A concern abutter spoke at the last hearing regarding observing flooding at the low point within in and around paddock number 4. So I went out to the site and I did 3 soil augers in that location. I provided the commission with a report with my finding. So my first soil auger was right about along the fence line.
Can you show the
Orange button.
There were photographs in the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of being very clear about where the points were.
So I took it right about at the fence line because that's obviously the area that we're requesting to have the paddock. I noted upland soils, a 10YR56. I performed a second soil auger, and I'm having a hard time seeing this plan. So where it says SP2, and it's my eyes, I had, oh, that's beautiful. No, that's okay, I just couldn't see it. So in this location here, I noted another upland soil, and that was right about along the existing tree line, or a shrub, it's more of a shrubby area line. And then the third soil auger, I had noted some wetland soils as well as wetland vegetation in that area as well. So if that area does flood, it doesn't flood or pond enough to actually change the soils.
So is that what the SP 1, 2, and 3 represent?
Correct. So SP1 was the first auger I did, clearly upland soils. Same as SP2 and SP3. I noted hydric soils and real wetland vegetation, purple loosestrife, skunk cabbage, that kind of stuff. And I believe that addressed all of the commission's concerns. And I can open it up with some questions.
Any questions?
My question was taken care of.
Okay. Did you have any questions or comments?
No.
Do members of the audience have any questions or comments on this project? Okay. You received the draft order of conditions?
Yes, I did.
And
So there was one concern I had in the draft order of conditions. Specifically, it notes no pesticides or herbicides to be used on the property.
Which number?
Oh,
Condition?
gosh. So the first one,
24?
22 and 24. When I spoke to my client regarding herbicides and pesticides, he said he's not going to be using them at this point. However, I'm requesting the commission to either modify that condition or eliminate it. Obviously, if herbicides or pesticides are to be used on the property, they have to be used appropriately. They have to be applied by a licensed applicator as well as per label. So you can't just free-for-all apply herbicides and pesticides. In addition to that, since this is land and agricultural use, they consider normal maintenance of land and agricultural use to allow pesticides and herbicides to crops under the agricultural regulations and the Wetland Protection Act. So I'm not sure what the commission feels comfortable with. Again, I would like to just keep that condition open if and when in the future they would like to use those.
well, looking at condition 22, it says, it basically says ongoing use within 100 feet of the wetland, so it's not site-wide.
Right, but so you're saying within the 100 feet they can't use it?
That's
what this says.
That's what our standard condition is setting up. And actually, I had a question about that because 22 starts by talking about all landscaping, and I think for an agricultural, we're not talking landscaping, we're talking vegetation, is the intended use of the property. And so I was scratching my head that says, is landscaping really the right term to use for if you're planting crops?
Right, so I don't think landscaping is necessarily the correct word to use. We are proposing this vegetable garden in this location, and I think that says 74 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be within the 100-foot buffer zone.
No, but I was thinking is because 22 starts by talking about all landscaping on, so my thought had been for 22 that all planted vegetation on the site would be designed, all planted vegetation on the site shall be installed so as to not require ongoing use of fertilizers, et cetera, within 100 feet. Is this the kind of thing that if they come up with a situation where they need to use herbicides or fertilizers, is there a way that they can come in and ask us to modify the order to allow that?
I believe so.
So I had provided, and this was really last minute, and I apologize, but this is from Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and it says that the SJC has interpreted, the State Pesticide Control Act as precluding the right of cities and towns to ban the use of pesticides and herbicides anywhere, including on agricultural lands. This exemption is repeated in the definition of normal maintenance of farmland with the addition of fertilizer. And I can pass that over.
Under the state act, not under our local wetlands bylaw.
Right, but
So we still have jurisdiction there.
my understanding is local towns and municipalities can't regulate agricultural under their local bylaws. And I guess what I'm requesting the commission is, I want my client to have the option to use this in the future if possible and avoid coming back to the commission. It's an active farm.
So I would ask you to take back the order, or we can come back and we can propose additional language that we can all come up with, but I hate to come up with it and try to wordsmith that additional language tonight.
So what you're saying is basically note all the questions we have on the different special conditions, basically take them offline to come up with a revised wording outside the meeting that we can that the applicant and the commission can agree on, and basically just issue the order on our next meeting, the 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I want to get it right, and it just doesn't always come up.
Yeah, well, this is a standard
And I
condition.
don't want to
and yes-
preclude or take anybody's rights away,
Might
but
be-
I want to have a chance to digest it and make sure that the wording is proper.
It could be a circuit rider contact again.
That's certainly, yes, it's certainly worth
There's got to be
putting it out
somebody
to her.
elsewhere in the state that's done something like this.
Okay.
Okay, I may have a scheduling conflict for the next meeting.
But if you submitted what you wanted and you were in
Okay.
agreement and we were in agreement, then we could just issue.
We've got
Without your presence.
we've got 3 weeks to the next meeting. We should be able to work to wording that is agreeable to all of us prior to that meeting.
So you don't have to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you can, Sierra, you've got this, you can take to the circuit rider. And are there any other, so you were also concerned about similar language in condition 24, which talks about the reduction and elimination of pesticides and fertilizers as recommended. So yeah, if you can put in writing the conditions you have questions with, and get them
And
to
maybe even some
Sierra.
requested language that you, or proposed language, and then we can look at it, and if we want to revise it, or just have Matt work with
Yeah.
her.
Well, the only thing I'm thinking about is because we won't be meeting as a body to discuss back and forth among us until the 13th.
So you can work with Matt.
Okay. Yeah, and then it goes out in the packet, and you all have a chance
The
to
whole
look at
body
it.
to look at and approve.
Yeah, but in terms of this, where the focus is healthy lawns for healthy families, is that really applicable for this?
Not really.
So maybe one of the things we look at, we can consider.
The wordsmith it or remove it.
Yeah, is maybe, given the focus of condition 24, is it applicable to this particular agricultural development?
May not be. But that's why it's probably good to have Matt and, folks take another look and come up with revised language that we can all agree to,
Okay.
that works for our client.
I don't know how available Matt will be.
Right, that's.
Yeah.
He's out through like Christmas, so
Is he really?
This is Matt.
that's why I'm
Nice.
here.
I knew Matt.
Yeah.
And I would just like to
time
say
to
now,
work it out
Matt,
so you don't have to-
Sierra is filling in for Matt while doing her regular job. So,
I love you, Sierra.
God love it.
Women can do that.
so there's a lot of balancing.
Yes, I know they can.
You know what, is
That sounds good to me.
anybody who has thoughts, feed them into Sierra.
Okay.
And then we can just, work offline to kind of
Come up with that revised language.
come up with that revised language. Did you have questions on any other conditions?
No, the rest of it seems very reasonable.
Okay,
Okay.
I did have no.
So there's, in 24, there's a specific mention of phosphorus.
Right.
Do you know why that is?
Yeah, because it contributes to eutrophication of wetlands.
Right, so if we take that out, then we would not have that provision.
Okay.
Let them look at it.
Yeah,
Let
it's
them,
just- yes,
if there's a concern there, raise it to her,
What-
and, they're working
Yeah,
on the language.
if each of you, so we don't want to get an email thread going with everybody on it because that's outside
Yeah.
of public meeting. But if each of you individually feed your thought to Sierra and myself, we can work it offline. I did have one more thing, though. There was a finding, it's probably the third one from the bottom on that finding page, where it talks about that the BVW is protected by an existing vegetated and wooded berm. I didn't see such a berm on the plan of record. Is it berm, or is it really a wooded and vegetated buffer?
It's a wooded and vegetated buffer, so I misspoke at the last hearing.
So we just need to get that wording corrected as well.
Sure.
Okay.
No problem. And Sierra, I'll send you some language from the Wetland Protection Act, so if you want to reach out to the circuit rider, you can have that.
Okay, sure.
See what they say.
So, question for you, Maureen.
Yes.
Do you know if the intent is to use organic methods on this farm?
I mean, as far as I know, that's the intent at this point.
Okay.
I didn't want to pigeonhole the farm with those conditions. So that's just in the future.
Okay.
If he decides, you know, he needs to spray some pesticides or herbicides on the vegetables, if he expands the vegetable gardens, those kind of things, then
Yeah.
those are
Because-
really normal activities that most farms use, you know?
But the difference is, if it's organic, then the pesticides and herbicides they use are typically not as harmful to the soil and the wetlands. And if they're getting NOFA, which is Northeast Organic Farming Association, whatever, there's several of these associations.
Right.
They'll all dictate what you can do.
Right.
And in which case, you know, we wouldn't be as concerned because, you know, the impact would be lower.
But all of that is, all of those plans by the property owner could be subject to change in the future.
Right.
In terms of what they're growing, what organizations he belongs to, you know, he basically can realize that he maybe needs to change how he does his operation. So, you know, yes, we don't.
Well, one thing you might want to note is the reason why we're allowing the exception, and if the change in use changes, or if the use changes, then maybe, you know, it falls back to a stricter standard. You know, it's basically an agricultural exemption that's being requested to allow to do certain things that we may not do. And it's like, okay, so if somehow that changes, well then.
So as long as it stays in agricultural use,
Then some of this is what's being proposed is allowed.
Is allowed as
Is an
long
allowed
as.
use.
Is an allowed use as long as the use of that property is.
In agriculture, because that's what's being discussed. But if
Okay.
it was something different, then we would be looking for something different.
Okay.
Well, the good news is that we have APRs throughout this entire property.
Oh, I remember,
So-
I helped put them there in
Agriculture only.
1997.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Great,
Okay.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to continue the public hearing till November 3rd? November 13th.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will get back to
Yeah.
fine tuning those orders of conditions. Moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item. It's a continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Seal Harbor LLC, 415 Groton Road. Give him the control.
No, I'm not in control. Good evening, for the record, Matt Waterman, Land Tech Consultants. Here with me is Mark Gallagher, Seal Harbor LLC. We're here for the continued public hearing for the notice of intent application at 415 Groton Road. We were last in front of the commission on September 25th. At that meeting, the commission, we presented the project to the commission, including the restoration area, the removal of the existing house, and how we really worked worked with Mark in particular to develop a project that kind of stays outside of the resource areas. I didn't think there was much comments. We did have a revised plan. It's just kind of technical updates, and I know you probably won't have a chance to look at it tonight, but it's just removing some of the conservation posts. I think we had 27 of them on the plan set, and we reduced that to 15, just to kind of reduce the massing of the posts, where it is kind of a long run. And then it was just providing some erosion control along the driveway swale, some check dams. So it was just kind of cleanup items. There was no real significant changes to the plan. I know that there was a draft order of conditions circulated. We have heard from the engineering department. We simultaneously filed a stormwater management permit for this lot and actually an adjacent lot with the planning board, or through the planning board with the engineering department for stormwater management. They've issued their comment letter. They didn't have any comments. All of their comments, they didn't have any technical comments. It was more conditional approval type items that were noted in their approval. So we don't anticipate any issues with the stormwater management permit. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we're hoping that the commission could close the hearing tonight.
An issue.
And issue the order of conditions, sorry.
Okay. Jim?
I have a question more for the commission than the applicant. About in the middle of the findings, there's one that says the closest limit of work is 23.4 feet from the wetland. And I think that's talking about this distance here.
Correct.
And that's really from the restoration area to the wetland. So, I mean, is that really what our concern is, that the restoration area is close to the wetlands? I wouldn't think that would be a concern of ours.
Well, I think some of it is because
It makes it sound like we're building a project
But
3
it's-
feet from the wetlands, which we wouldn't allow somebody to do.
But we're letting them do work that close.
Restoration work.
Okay.
Maybe we could say it something like that. The closest limit of restoration work is 23, that would be fine by me. Because what I don't want to do is have somebody
Okay.
pull this out of context and say, look, you're allowing them to go to 23 feet of the wetlands, because we are not.
I want similar accommodation.
Yeah.
So here, we're doing it as part of a restoration
Yeah,
project.
so why don't we just say, limit of restoration work is
Well, we're
23.4
doing-
feet. One word added.
Okay, yeah.
I'd be okay with that, because that tells exactly what we're really doing. We're restoring riverfront area 23 feet, up to 23 feet from the wetland.
So disregarding that, the removal of the existing house might also be just within the 30. So, like, they're doing work to remove the house that's there. That's
remove it,
probably
So
right.
25 or
demolition and
30 feet away.
restoration
Okay,
Yeah.
are closer than our normal setbacks.
okay.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
does one of the findings also deal with the existing dwelling is located, and,
Existing dwelling is approximately 30 feet from the wetlands.
yeah, but it doesn't say anything about demolishing it, does it? There's no finding with,
Necessitating disturbance up to 23 point, that one's clearer. It's like three or four findings down from the
Okay.
one we were just talking about. And it's worded okay, because it talks about that demolition requires disturbance up to 23.4 feet from the wetlands. But it's telling why. It's not we're building a project, we're removing a
Okay.
building that's that close.
yeah,
And the one that I was concerned with, the one about in the middle that says 23.4 from the BVW, we should just say limit of restoration work is 23.4, because that's what we're doing.
I mean,
Right.
is that where the erosion controls are? Is that?
Yeah.
So,
It's on the outside
Hey.
of the
okay.
restoration.
Except for the demolition, I'm looking at the next one, except for the demolition of the existing dwelling and planting of the restoration area, the closest limit of work is outside the 50-foot buffer. Yeah, and, I mean, so that really, the condition, the finding after the one you mentioned, Jim, basically says, other than demolition and restoration, all work is outside the 50, but you're concerned with somebody coming in and taking the previous finding.
Just saying, look, you're letting
In
them go too
isolation.
close. So why
You
can't we-
allowed this, so you have to allow me similar accommodation.
Or I just.
Just to have the word
remove it.
restoration
Yeah.
instead of work.
So what you're saying is remove any possibility of ambiguity.
Correct.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. Can we do that?
Just add in the one word, restoration in back of, before
Right
work.
before work, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, and it just, yeah, we'll have to get an updated copy of orders to give to you, but yeah.
It doesn't change anything for the applicant, but it
No,
makes it-
but
makes
in
it clear.
terms of them being able to get their hands on the signed paperwork, they now need to get an updated version of the document. So it just, that's where it's a slight delay to them having the complete paperwork available.
A few days doesn't hurt us.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, just circling back, are there any comments or questions on this project by members of the audience? No. Okay, so can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for this afternoon.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item. It's a request for certificate of compliance from Choice Incorporated, 60 Littleton.
All right, I can maybe take this one.
Yes,
I don't think
go
anyone,
ahead.
needs to be here for it. So, so if you'll recall back in June, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Guys?
Could you, yeah, thank you so much. So back in June, I did include some minutes, just for a reminder. They initially filed for this, mid-June, and, Matt had suggested tabling it because at the time erosion controls were still in, and then the commission had some concerns about, they just wanted to know more about the deviations and have that articulated in the letter. So between the letter and some follow-up emails with Matt, they have articulated any deviations, which most seem to be outside of the buffer zone. The erosion controls have been removed. That was confirmed by Matt. He did go out there at some point before his leave and confirm that there are no erosion controls. I did a quick drive out there today just to take a look at the property. Everything looks good out there. So I would recommend issuing this certificate of compliance, but I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
You want a motion to that effect? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh goodness, you know what I didn't do? That COC.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that as soon as the meeting ends, so you guys can sign it, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so now we're moving on to our 8 PM agenda item, which is 426 Littleton Road, Wilma Realty Trust, to discuss the enforcement order and ratify the issued enforcement order.
Let me go print that.
Yeah,
real quick,
okay.
just while this is-
Sure. Hello.
It's not us.
Permeable concrete pavers. Oh, yeah, that's.
This is the old plan. This isn't.
No, this is Choice Realty, this
This
is
is 60.
Choice, this is the housing at 60 Littleton Road that was the previous agenda
Right.
item.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, and Sierra just, we've issued a certificate of compliance, and Sierra just needs to print the copy for us to sign. So,
So she's adding a word.
huh? No, this is for the request for the
Oh,
certificate of
this.
compliance. No, we're not gonna try and do Seal Harbor tonight. We'll do that at the, no, yeah, we've.
Not
we-
tonight.
We've signed the paperwork for that, but she's gotta print out the amended order. So, but now, yeah, so we'll wait for her to come back so that she's, part of the discussion for 426 Littleton Road. This is much better than trying to get everybody to, or 4 of us to stop by tomorrow afternoon to sign it.
Yes, sorry about that. 2
Okay,
pages.
so we decided to wait for you before we get discussing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I
was gonna forget something, so.
Yeah, they were really concerned about the plan that was up on the screen. It wasn't theirs.
Wow, boy, it changed.
So, okay. Yeah, and you were gonna guide us through this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you've reviewed the enforcement order, it appears that a bunch of vegetation had been cut sort of before it was supposed to. And
Is this Kimball's?
No.
No, this is
Sullivan Tire.
Sullivan Tire. Okay.
Backyard. Or the back part of the lot.
From
Okay.
the culvert cover back.
some of the vegetation may have been outside of the limit of work as well. And that's.
So with everything we go to do what we do to get these orders and conditions, how does it go so far astray, guys? You know, how does, you know, when I look at this, and I mean, why is it not compliance? You know,
Well,
how do we get into this situation?
How do we get into work being done before
Yeah,
Matt's
I
been out
mean-
on site
No meeting.
for the on-site meeting?
I will say this, I was under the impression that we were to call you when the erosion control was installed.
Mm-hmm.
And I had called Matt, I never got a return call, but I did want to talk to him prior to those companies coming out. And the tree companies from Westminster and the erosion control companies from Fitchburg, S&M, which I believe they have a great history of doing things well. So I was just as surprised as everyone here, and of course not expecting to have to be here, but so I do realize that I'm responsible for this, and both those companies got copies of the plans, and yeah, I don't know what happened. I just wasn't able to be there to tell them what to do because they already have the expertise, and we just want to make it right. They have both those companies have let me know that they're fully cooperative, and they'd be happy to come back and make things correct.
So the work in areas that weren't supposed to be worked outside, you know, how extensive was it?
Well, can I add to that?
Yeah.
Stamsky, they were supposed to flag that, you know, put the stakes in a day. It took like 4 days. I could tell you that because of what it cost, and it was way more than to be expected. And the reason for that was the difficulty they had. And George had told me that he put his muscle man out there to get through it. You know, the bamboo and was intertwined with the.
So the vegetation where in the line where the stakes were going to go?
Yes, and the thorns were wrapped into the bamboo as well. And those guys, they really did. They busted their humps getting it done. The tree guy actually helped them because there was debris in their way. So
I think that's where the problem started. The tree guy was removing stuff so they could put down the erosion control. And then when they were putting down the erosion controls, where they ran into difficulty, because it was staked, you know, from corner to corner. So instead of running it down straight, what happens if you look at the pictures Matt has, it's bumped out a little bit, and then they bumped the erosion controls out instead of bumping them in to go around whatever.
Whatever.
right there.
So there was and what they did is just above that first stake that's circled, because it was supposed to go from that stake to the one up.
The near stake or the first, when you say that stake, are you talking
The red, first one that's circled in red.
Okay, so the near stake.
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's one way up past where that's me in that picture standing there.
Okay.
And it's supposed to go straight up that line.
Mm-hmm.
So just at the top of the first red circle, there was what looks like a little sapling or something, which they obviously cut down. And then they must have felt they couldn't lay the auto flat on the ground right through there, so they pushed it, instead of pushing it to the inside to go around that, they went to the outside, which pushed it into the 50-foot no disturb. So there's, I mean, I can't.
So how much did we go into the 50-foot no disturb? 10 feet, 5 feet, 20 feet?
It's probably, I'm gonna say, where they did go into it, it was 3 to 5 feet. There are some areas where instead of pushing, a shrub was kind of hanging over, instead of pushing it up and just laying the silt fence under it, they trimmed it up. So there's a lot of stuff that was trimmed on the, not a lot of stuff, I won't say, but there is stuff that is trimmed in the 50 feet that I thought they could have just pushed to the side when they laid the stuff out. And there's small saplings that they cut that they could have just pushed the silt fence to the inside instead of trying to lay it right on top of those stumps. So I don't know why they chose to go to the outside, because it's clearly marked on the plans that it was the 50-foot no disturb line was the limit of work, the limit of erosion control on all the plans. But they, instead of going this way, they went out, and it's not very much. You can see it's not very much there. And the other one, that the first picture is there's a little curve towards us as you look at that picture. That's into the 50-foot right there. That should have been a straight line. But they could have gone, if they had to go around something right there, I'm not sure what's there in that picture, but they could have pushed those just 2 or 3 feet the other way, would have kept it in or out of, I should say, out of the 50-foot. So like I said, it's not a huge area. They didn't go in 20 feet. That's, clear cut 20 feet of the 50-foot no disturb, but they, when they pushed things out a little bit, they cleared to push things out.
So what's your plans to remedy?
We can put back some shrubs and trees along the edge there. We can't do that this fall because we're kind of getting to the end of the growing season. We can do that in the spring when we do the remaining plantings on the other side for the mitigation part of that. It should be noted that all that we want to do this fall or before December 1st, and we're not going to ask for any work over the winter. It's just to clear the work area. There's a few trees still in there that have to be cleared, but at this point, what we need to do is the pre-construction meeting, which we should have done, and I'm not sure who's going to be able to make that for the commission.
So that would be, yeah. Okay.
We can fix the erosion controls prior to that meeting if you want us to, or we can wait till the meeting and fix it immediately afterwards. Move them back out of the 50-foot, and where we have to curve it, we'll just curve it to the inside.
Sierra, do you know normally if Matt has the on-site pre-construction meeting before the erosion control is installed, or?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Given the problem in this case that the erosion controls were in the wrong location.
Right, my thought is.
It makes sense for them to fix it and then look.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that I would like the erosion controls to be fixed before the pre-construction meeting, so we can just check it all at once.
Okay. Once we have that meeting and the erosion controls are acceptable in those acceptable locations, all that Mr. Carr wants to do is just open up the rest of the site for this fall. That's it.
If we're going to do
Within
some
the work
restoration
area.
as part of, I want to know what they're going to plant, and that's going to happen now. It's not going to happen till the spring, but I want to know how they're going to remedy it before we allow them to continue.
So you want to
release
see
the enforcement order.
What you would want to see would be a restoration plan for what will be planted in the areas where there was.
And they're saying they don't want to do it in the fall, they want to do it in the spring.
Well,
I get that, but yeah, I want to see the plan.
So if we have, if you have a plan, we review it, we approve it, then yes, once we're agreed on what the restoration will be, we don't Yeah, it
Then
can
we
go
can
in the
probably
ground in the
lift the
spring, but we can approve starting to do that clearing work in the winter, or now. Although actually, yeah, because you'd have time to clear all the stuff within the buffer zone prior to December 1st.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're not going to need the authorization to work.
Right,
If they've
but I'm
done their
just-
work, yeah.
Yeah, but it just, yeah, is, so November 13th would be the next time that we would meet, and at that point, if we've got a restoration plan to approve, we could,
Lift the enforcement.
we could approve, yeah, we could approve the restoration plan, close out, lift, whatever the technical word is for the enforcement order, so that then you can start the work between November 14th and December 1st to finish the clearing. Okay.
Okay.
So, is there anything else we need to discuss other than ratify?
Go with that, Chair?
Well,
Okay.
so we'll need to, so one of the things we have to do is we have to ratify the issued enforcement order, but I just want to check with Sierra and see if there was anything else we needed to discuss as part of discussing the enforcement order.
No, I think the biggest thing was just understanding exactly what happened and then discussing what remedy there might need to be, and it sounds like the restoration plan, so I think.
Okay. So can I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So then we will see you back on November 13th. If you can email the restoration plan to Sierra before then, we can, the commission can review it and come to the meeting prepared. Close out the
Apologize,
discussion.
folks,
Yeah.
we'll remedy this and we'll make it right for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
As well.
So now you're going to call Lydia, who hopefully has been watching us on TV, so she wonders why we didn't call at 8:20.
Yeah, I did tell her that being that late in the meeting, you're probably not gonna be at 8:20.
We're not that far off.
So.
We're doing good.
It's just not showing.
10 minutes.
Probably just have to show it again.
Only 10 minutes behind.
All right, so let me see.
Whenever
This is correctly.
right on target. None of these were crazy.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
So Lydia's on a call with.
Four,
sorry, somebody else from the town is
9.
attending.
This meeting ID does not exist. Please
Okay.
re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
All right, well, that's not going to work. We're going to just call her phone. Hi, Lydia.
Oh, hi. Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm so sorry. The Zoom code didn't work. It said it was invalid, so I couldn't connect that way. I apologize.
Okay. Okay, that's no worries. Do you mind if I put you on speaker? I know Michelle was able to log in, so she's actually online, but I think my speaker is that she can hear me.
Okay, that's fine.
If that's okay.
Yep. You're on speaker here.
Oh, super.
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. 1 second.
I'm pulling up the slide 3 that you were requesting be shown, so I don't know if you wanted to start giving an overview or. Can you hear me from there?
Could you hear her?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I think she just can't
Yes.
hear me.
Oh, brilliant, excellent, thank you. So I can't see you, but I'm assuming, Sierra, that you have the slides up?
Yes.
Oh, super, that's really great. Yeah, apologies, I can't be there in person. Wednesday is my one day when I actually lecture in North Eastern, so that's, unfortunately this time is really fixed. So do you have the slides up, Sierra?
Yes.
Oh, super, great. So I'll just introduce myself and then just take 5 minutes to introduce the concept of Park Run. I wasn't sure if everybody was familiar with it. It's a British concept. My name's Lydia Mayer-Turks, and I moved to Westford with my family a couple of months ago in search of a more rural life. We moved from Arlington in Mass, definitely in search of a more rural life than a community. And Park Run is my idea to contribute to a community. I'm a keen walker and jogger and hiker. And I've fallen in love with Stony Brook. I go running there every morning, and it's such a wonderful place, and it's one of many in Westford. So on slide 2, what we're proposing, and I've discussed these slides with the Park Run team as well. There are currently 3 other Park Runs in Boston. What we're proposing and we're asking permission for is to use Stony Brook once a week on Saturday between 8:30 and 10:30 to arrange a meeting of walkers, joggers and runners to meet up and non-competitively cover what is, I understand, the cross-country route, starting at the track at Stony Brook School, and then going down and looping Burgess Pond, and then coming back at the school. So that's the request really for a 5K non-competitive community walk and or jog and run, and use this public space to be able to do that. We'd start with a briefing every week. We check on the weather. We're aiming to also that the event is zero waste. So we'll be encouraging people to use reusable cups. So there's no loudspeaker or arches or vehicles. It's just a group of people that meet up, and there's no subscription either, and it's free. They meet up and they walk and or run or jog around the lake. There is an opportunity to bring your dog as long as there's 1 dog per person on a short lead. And the goal is just really to get out in the fresh air and enjoy nature. The park runs happen all over the world, and the goal is really activity, to encourage people and reduce the barriers to activity. So people who may have not necessarily been out to that space before, or may feel intimidated to join a running or a jogging club. So we're just encouraging the community to get together and just enjoy the space. And I appreciate it's not a park, it's a natural space, so that comes with it, different undulating pathways, etc. But the way Park Run works is if the community is interested and we get approval in a meeting like this, then I would fill a formal application in for Park Run, and they will do a risk assessment, and they then cover all the liability insurance. And before we even advertise something like this, I would come back to this forum with the necessary paperwork, the risk assessment and the liability insurance from Park Run. And then the rest of the slides really are the how. I mean, Park Run's been going for 20 years. Started out in the UK, Bushy Park. So I'm on slide 5 with 13 people and 5 volunteers. And that's the other key thing as well. I want this to be, and every Park Run is run by volunteers, local volunteers who will steward the run, organise things like a social media page. Park Run will provide a website and also provide login details, and everybody signs a waiver, and they're given a barcode. And then they just come to the event. They only have to register once. They come to the event. If they complete the circuit, they get a token at the end, and we're looking for at least 2 human interactions. And they can use those tokens to get T-shirts as they continue to come. But there's no obligation, there's no subscription, and there's no fee for anybody that wants to come. So that Bushy Park event happened some 20 years ago, and it actually grew to be over, I think, 600 people. It's a heavily trafficked big park in London. For this type of event, I think if we do well if we started with 20 people turning up. 20 to 30 people in the first year. If we doubled that, and if we got to over 100, that would be amazing in the second year. But I anticipate, I'm trying to build capacity to see how we go, and then maybe check in with the conservation group and team as we progress. So on slide 7, I'll leave, I'll stop with this. Park Run, as I said, it's a British charity. They would cover the risk assessment and the waiver. They would also set up a website and a login details for people to register. Park Run is also partnering with Brooks. So at some point, they're the global partner. So at some point, they may want to come along and get people to try different shoes, but there's no obligation to buy or sell anything. The big thing about Park Run is that it's a charity and it's a community event to enable people to get out in the fresh air and interact. And that's the bottom line. There's no heavy selling. I'm not being paid to do anything. I just want to contribute something to the community and encourage people to enjoy nature in the fresh air and in the space. So I'll stop there if there are questions, or if you want me to dive into more detail. I didn't want to present 25 slides to you as the final point on the agenda.
Yes, I have a few questions, ma'am. On the first page that we were looking at, there was the word something about arches. What's that talking about?
So which page are you looking at?
The one that shows the Westford Academy cross-country course?
Where the trail map is, you talk about no loudspeakers, arches, or vehicles.
Right.
We don't know what arches would be.
What's arches?
Oh, arches are, sometimes when you have a fun run and you have an inflatable arch, which is the finish point.
Finish lines, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, finish line, sorry.
All right.
Finish line, there's none of that.
Okay. The next one, on all the pictures that showed people running your courses all over the place, I guess, the areas they're running are either fully grassed, smooth, a track, paved. You've been through Stony Brook Conservation Area. There's an awful lot of roots in that trail, especially on the side nearest the Stony Brook. That's suitable for you?
Yes, so if you look on the route on the map, what I would suggest, and again we'll do a risk assessment, I appreciate that it is a nature space, we would start at the track and go out along Wakey Trail. We go along Wakey Trail, which is the wider point, and then go back up along Neshoba, which again is the wider point which narrows out. If the Neshoba Fresh Air Camp is occupied and people are using that, then we would look at the alternative route of going out through Wakey and coming back through Stony Brook Trail as an alternative. But most of the time we want to try and keep to the cross-country side. I think on the website we will also stipulate that it is a natural area, so there are exposed roots and there may be uneven surfaces, and we'll advise on the website for people, because we want this to be inclusive. So we will make an assessment if it's safe enough for strollers and or wheelchairs.
Okay,
and if not, we will advise on the website.
I don't think it's going to work for strollers, especially along the western part, but you really got to take a look at that, because there's an awful lot of roots, and from August till the end of the year, they're going to be covered in fallen leaves and things like that. So.
Yeah.
All right. My last question was, do you have any water tables planned or refreshment type areas? Because every race I've ever seen where they have a water table, there's paper cups and they get tossed. I understand you're trying to be zero waste and all that, but
sounds good, but in reality it doesn't work.
So we will have one table. Under the flag, there is a flag just near the track in Stony Brook. We will have one table there, which would be a greeting table to meet people at the start and meet people at the finish. We will not bring paper cups. We will encourage people to bring their own reusable bottle and or reusable cup. So we will not supply. We'll bring water and we'll take away those plastic bottles of water, but we will not use paper cups or plastic cups.
And on your race course, there won't be any water stops where there'll be paper cups or anything like that, right?
No, we won't. So what we're planning is to have marshals, just to come back to your point about risk, because it is a natural area with uneven surfaces. We're planning to have 4 marshal points, approximately half a mile distance, to make sure people are following the track. And we will have back runners, what you call as trail runners or walkers, so they'll make sure that nobody is ever last. They'll be the walkers behind the group of people that are walking. So similarly, if they see any rubbish, they can pick that up along the trail.
Okay. And then one more thing I was thinking of as you were speaking there, you wanted to start and finish over at the Stony Brook School parking lot or the track there.
Yeah, the tracks, yeah.
The Conservation Commission doesn't have authority over any of that property on that side. That's all school department.
Yeah, so I've spoken to the Stony Brook School, and I understand we have to fill in a separate permission
Good.
form.
Oh, good, thank you.
So if this is of interest and if we get approval, I'll then connect with them. But they've provided me the form and the form that I need to fill in.
Okay, those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
So one of the questions I have is, are you looking to do this? It says 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Saturdays. Is this an every Saturday event? How many type?
Yeah, we would like to do that.
It seems like if that's the case, then we're prohibiting a lot of other residents and folks in town who might be wanting to use this trail, for purposes other than what Park Run wants to use this for.
Well, I think this is not exclusive use. This one.
No, but if I have a bunch of people running up and down this path and I've got somebody slowly walking it, they're going to feel intimidated about using it because they have this use. And from this use, this is an intensive use, and I'm thinking about the wear and tear on the trails. Mm-hmm. So I really actually want to know and hear a lot more about this before we approve this, because this is quite an intensive use of these trails.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a point that, okay, Marilyn?
I was thinking with what you're saying there, do you have any reports or any follow-up in other places that show the concerns that were just mentioned here, to see how people, make sure
I can, absolutely. I mean, I'll have a look at, I coordinate with another park run person, the person that does Cutler Park. And I can have a look at the use, see if there's a use case or use case data. And again, just to be clear, there may be people jogging, there may be people walking, so there'll be, straddles. There won't suddenly be 50 people running, abreast. There are ways that we can obviously share the space. We don't anticipate to use the space exclusively, because this is about the community, so it's about also, working in operation with people who may be walking their dogs or who may be already using the space. But I can certainly ask about use data in terms of wear and tear.
Marilyn?
Yeah, I'm sure they would have similar concerns and probably have issued reports as to what they found. So if there's anything in writing as well, so we can see how they accommodate what's happening, but also how they follow up, so that if there's wear and tear on areas, how they restore those areas.
I would prefer not to have the wear and tear in the first place,
Well,
instead of worrying
with you,
about
but-
restoration. I want to hear a lot more about what is really being proposed here, the potential for the people out here in the use. And they're looking at Saturdays from 8:30 to 10:30, which has got to be a pretty important time that we want to leave this open to the general public. So I really want to hear a lot more, and I really want to have it presented here where I have an opportunity to talk to folks, and perhaps not online.
And maybe having members of the public as well who are using this. I did also, Lydia, this is Margaret Wheeler. I did have.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. I did have one more question. Where on the map you show Marshall 3, the trail is going through what is the public parking lot. So that might also be an area of concern, is you're having the route go through the area where members of the public who are coming to this site are parking their cars. And so that may be another thing where you would check with other park run sites, is do they ever have their route going through an active parking lot?
So what they have done, that's the point that I did discuss. What has happened, one option would be to have cones at an area. Obviously, there's no intersection with the vehicles.
No, I don't think that's an option.
There's no intersection with where people are parking. We would have make sure there are cones so that the runners are not running across any kind of cars or parked cars.
But I know. And I think one of the concerns that we would have is the parking lot is fairly small for the number of cars we sometimes get at peak time. So I think this is, is if you've got a lot of people coming on a Saturday morning to walk their dog, go down to the beach, go fishing, there are times when the parking lot is completely filled. So yes, I think this is something where more conversation
is necessary.
Marilyn?
Yeah. I would think that where you've also spoken to the schools, they would know what events were happening, that affect them, that people are brought to that same place.
But that's not the parking lot that we're talking about,
but still they're coming in. They're still coming in.
And that's
so they might say what dates were not available. It wouldn't be good, I mean, there would have to be obviously coordination in many different ways, including the police department.
Coordination, So these are good points.
I'm not saying it as a negative. I'm just saying all of these things need to be explored.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We do it. That's the question.
I will also throw out one thing on this slide just because it's been bugging me, is they are porta potties, not porter.
I noticed that.
I
forgot to mention that.
I thought they were.
That's a good catch. That's a good catch.
Yeah, it just, in terms of the words that people are used to hearing, I think spell check may have tried to help you.
Porta potty is a brand name.
Oh, that could be, yes.
What?
But there's no such thing as a porta potty anyway.
So
we don't know about it.
Okay, so we may be talking Band-Aids and Kleenex.
So I have to say that's a British thing. Porta potties. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. So I think
We need more.
in terms of
Who pays for the porta potties?
so the porta potties would Park Run would have those features be brought to the school every Saturday morning for people to use?
So there are two in Stony Brook already at the school. There are two porta potties already near the flag. There are already two porta potties there.
Okay, so
That
part
doesn't
of
mean
your
they're for use by the general.
no, but so part of the application.
Public.
So part of the application for using the parking area and access to these trails would also be using those facilities?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, it almost seems like I should be leasing it. If they, a lease arrangement or something.
But the schools would obviously have to be involved.
Yes.
In terms of.
And we had heard that.
So.
Oh, you only heard one aspect of it.
So I think
I know.
from the next step, so we're interested in finding out information about Park Run's experience in sites where there are more cross-country like trails as opposed to traditional park settings. What has their experience been? Have they had challenges in remote naturalized areas? Challenging trails.
We need to decide if we want this type of intensive use, and especially during the frequency that's being proposed. I mean, I really think they need to come in and do more of a a formal presentation than the discussion we're having on the phone right now, because we, as a commission, have a lot of questions to ask that need to be addressed. I don't know if this is the proper way to be doing it right
And
now.
have people from the public that use it.
Yes, and they're not even having an opportunity to
So,
respond.
Right.
but also I think, with some of the questions that we've brought up, does it make sense to do a preliminary route assessment to make sure that this is even something that Park Run says this is a viable site?
So that's a great point, Margaret. These are all great points. What I can do, the points that I've noted down are about intensity of use and coming back with some examples in a country setting, in a trail setting, on intensity of use. Also the points about the parking area, and also points about co-use of a public space. We're not requesting exclusive. So what I would suggest is I can go back to Park Run and put a formal application in to see what the results of the risk assessment say. I know, Margaret, you'd mentioned that there is another meeting on the 13th of November. So I can check in with them and see if I can provide some of the answers to the questions that have come up today, and then come face to face on the 13th of November with a fuller picture of both the intensity use, the co-space use, and with the risk assessment results from Park Run. How does that sound?
Before I answer that, there are two more questions in the room. Marilyn?
What I was going to recommend is, when we have such a discussion, I would like someone from the school department here at the same time.
Okay.
Okay? Because it involves their property as well, so.
So we would want somebody from the school
Department to hear everything in case they have other concerns or other issues that they bring up.
Okay.
This is not like it's just a big lot.
I believe that Michelle from the Recreation Commission is also
she's
on this
Michelle,
call.
I think, is listening on
Okay.
The more the merrier.
Okay, Noel?
I was going to ask Lydia if this would be constrained or restricted to people from any geographic area, like Westford only, or there's no such thing, right?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily. We'd obviously advertise there'd be a Westford website.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be constrained or restricted to people from Westford.
Would you be able to set a maximum number of participants signing up for any given Saturday morning?
Well, the risk assessment, I think, will also include a capacity number. So the risk assessment will also include a capacity number. It will say the space is safe for X number of people. So I think that's something that we could define in there.
That's something we could consider, but ultimately we make the determination on how many can use it at any given time. And not only is it the commission, it's the trust as well, would have to give its authorization, so the trust needs to be involved.
No, but that leads on to the other question, is because this property is under a conservation restriction held by the Westford Land Preservation Foundation, we also need to approach them and explain, one of the things we need to do is check that this would be a permitted use under the terms of the conservation restriction, and get their approval as the holder of that restriction in writing that this
would be a permitted use.
That they are in agreement with this use of the site. So that's another thing that we would also have to do as part of the process is to get that approval from that body.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm here. This is Michelle. I'm sorry I didn't chime in a little bit. But as far as getting the school involved, I can help Lydia in connecting with them and discussing, parking, and the porta potties are ones that we have out there, Park and Recreation, for activities that we do at that facility. So the porta potties aren't a problem either. But I can help Lydia reach out to the school department as well.
Okay.
I would like them at the next, I'd
Yeah.
like somebody from the school
So- so-
physically in our.
So we want to, I'm getting the sense we want to continue this discussion at our November 13th meeting. Michelle, in terms of, right now there is nobody sitting in the audience. I'm thinking that we probably want input from the Westford public, and I'm not quite sure what's the right way.
I'm not sure if that's the right meeting.
Reach out to the friends.
There are no more friends.
Let's see. Not,
Well, and yes, I guess some of this
Can we
is,
post something on the bulletin board at East Madison Camp?
do we, well, but somebody in this conversation said, do we want to have another strategic discussion before we start bringing in
I would.
the public
I would.
for comments or for their feedback? What are people's thoughts?
I don't know. I think I want to have the public involved from the very beginning. Let us hear their comments. I don't want to strategize anything without somebody's involvement and them saying that we did something in a non-public fashion.
Okay.
You know, I want to be, you know, make sure we're doing the open meeting law. And I know that there are going to be people who are going to be very concerned that this is going to restrict their use and their right and their opportunity to use this in a manner that they want, that we set aside this for. I mean,
Okay.
is there any downside to having them do the risk assessment anyway?
Right.
In the
Right.
meantime?
No, I think, go ahead, Lydia.
That's you know, they, in terms of not mixed use but sharing space, I'll see what I can contribute in that. I mean, that'll be part of a risk assessment for sure, but I think I mean, I hear you. I think it would be very interesting to have everybody in that next meeting, and I can bring the data in person for what we have. We may have some of that data of a mixed use location versus, you know, the park rooms, as far as I'm aware, have never been exclusive use. They've always been a sharing of the space, and there's been over 10 million different, you know, people who've participated in park runs. So that's just how that is how it's set up. It's not exclusive. It's meant to be open access within a community, sharing space.
Yeah,
I mean, we purchased this land, and the commission basically, in concert with the trust, you know, tries to maintain this property for the use and enjoyment of the citizens. And, you know, we're looking at ways to not have intensive use, to make it as enjoyable and, you know, have that wildlife setting and that rural setting that you moved to Westford for. And we're not trying to make it an intensive use and make it such that it loses the character that you feel you enjoy and that we enjoy.
I respectfully agree with you, but I also disagree, because I think one great thing about the countryside is bringing accessibility to all. It's accessibility to all. So yeah, so, you know, I don't think that space should be used exclusively for certain individuals. It should be for everybody to enjoy. And that's the ethos I'm trying to create, for everybody to enjoy. People who maybe haven't necessarily used it before say, oh wow, yeah, gosh, this really is a great place to be. And I walked around there on park run. So
we don't want it to be so overused that it loses its character, and for the very reasons we purchased it.
I hear you too. Yes, I absolutely hear you. But you know, doesn't the Conservation Committee have a group of volunteers who also do maintenance to that area? So the fact that people are using it, making people aware that, hey, you can also contribute and volunteer to maintaining this space, getting that message out, I think is a really positive thing.
No, we don't actively maintain the trails. There's a partner organization, the Westford Conservation Trust, and what they basically do is they handle the trail clearing that a person walking the trail, if it's a branch that's too big for them to move off to the side themselves, the trail crew comes in and will deal with that branch. But no, we are not in any, we may have scout projects if we have to repair a bridge over a stream or something, but most of it is left in its natural state.
Okay, but the trail crew, do they rely on volunteers?
Yes.
There you go.
And
so having people use the space, what I'm saying is at the briefing, I would also encourage and make people aware, hey, there is a trail crew, there is a Westford Conservation Trust trail crew. If you're enjoying this space, you can also volunteer and contribute.
Okay. So I think what we need to do is maybe we can reach out to the former Friends of East Boston camps and figure out if there are, if there are groups, if we put this on the agenda for the November 13th meeting, people reach out to let the people that they know who use these trails, come to the meeting, participate in the discussion.
They probably have a telephone tree of all the people that were involved.
Okay. Yeah, but just getting the word out to the groups that do dog walks, stuff like that, so that we can get all the constituents present. Okay, so yeah, and I think we'll probably shoot for a time slot that's earlier in the evening, and
But this can't run on for a long period of time. We can't have an open-ended discussion at an earlier period of time. Set it for 10 minutes and let it run for an hour.
no. So we need. Do we think?
Do you think an appropriate time period would be? How much time do you think we need to really?
Maybe 15, maybe 20, but we couldn't allow, and I know that we'll have people in the audience who will want to say something. So it'd pretty much be limiting the conversation on your end to about 10, and then leaving 10 minutes for a discussion from the audience and the commission.
And like the moderator says, we're glad for new information, but if you want to stand up and agree with so-and-so, please don't.
Don't, yeah, but we also at the same time have to let our constituents speak.
Yes, okay. So, okay. Well, and we will, Sierra and I will also have to look and see how many other things have gotten themselves on the agenda.
And that might affect what you put on the next agenda.
Well,
Well,
no,
not
because
that, we would just limit it and say, hey, you only have so much time to talk, and then we're just going to continue it to our next meeting. It doesn't have to be open-ended and finished in one
right.
night.
So at this point, yes, I think at this point, if we get to the end of the available time at the meeting on the 13th, and there's more that we need to discuss, we just plan to have a follow-on discussion at our subsequent meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the idea.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
I think so.
So,
discussion items?
Yeah, we have the minutes, so.
Okay, you want me to hang up at this end?
Yes.
Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
very much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we move on to the minutes for October 7th. I don't either.
I abstain.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the October 7th, 2024 meeting?
October 9th.
Yeah, it's the 9th. I know the agenda
okay.
says 7, but it's the 9th.
So it's the October 9th. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the October 9th, 2024 meeting?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. So with the other discussion items, while Matt is out, Sierra is handling all of the stuff that has to be dealt with in a regulatory time frame, enforcement orders, things like that. Matt is spending some of his time because since he's not working the regulatory stuff, he will be spending his time working on moving these items forward. We're not going to bring them back and trying to have a meaningful discussion until he's back with us on January 8th.
Sounds good.
Okay? So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.